What's up, everybody? It's your boy Hawk, and welcome back to another episode of Hawks Hoops. Houston, we have a problem. In today's video, I wanted to talk about the Houston Rockets and some of the issues I've seen in the first two games of this Rockets-Warriors series. Both games have been extremely exciting to watch. Houston Rockets have pretty much been in each game, and both of them are very, very close. There's a couple of adjustments that the Rockets need to make that are crucial for the Rockets to make if they want to have a chance to win this series, especially going back home 0-2. Now, you can say what you want about the first game. The officiating, in my opinion, was horrible. As much people say James Harden, looks for fouls and flops and all of that, my honest opinion is that Klay Thompson fouled James Harden on three separate occasions when he was attempting the three-pointer. He didn't give him space to land. He basically undercut him, and in my opinion, that's a foul. And those three specific ones that I'm talking about that happened in the first half when James wasn't really reaching for the foul. He wasn't really going for the foul. He wasn't flinging his legs forward like a lot of people say he does, or a lot of people say he did on that last three-point attempt when a lot of people say Draymond fouled him. I don't think that one was a foul because I do believe James Harden was throwing his legs out. But those are at least 9 free throws that I think the Rockets should have had that they missed out on, and those are 3 fouls that would have been on Klay Thompson. The game just could have been a little different if it was officiated a little better. Game 1, in my opinion. Game 2, officiating was great. I didn't really have any issues with the officiating in Game 2. I think the calls were made pretty even across the board. I even think in some moments they let the players play and they let it get a little chippy, get a little rough. But Game 1 officiating was not great, and I think the NBA realized that, and I think the official realized that, and they were really trying to be on their game for Game 2, and I hope they continue to call the game fairly moving forward. But that's not really what I want to talk about, because what I want to talk about are things that the Houston Rockets can change, adjustments that Mike D'Antoni needs to make to give his team a chance to win. The first thing I'm gonna need is Chris Paul to score more. I'm gonna need at least 22 to 25 points out of him a game for the Houston Rockets to have a chance at this series. He had, I want to say, 17 points in Game 1 and 18 points in Game 2, or that might be vice versa. But the point is, that's not enough points. I don't really know what it is with Chris Paul right now. I don't know if he's letting James Harden, take over and let him do a lot of the work, but Chris Paul needs to have an impact on this game, and that by impact, he needs to score. We know he's going to be able to distribute the ball, set up his teammates, but he needs to be aggressive and he needs to score. The second thing that's got to happen is Clint Capella has to get more involved. He had 4 points in Game 1, and they only lost by 4 points. If he scored a little bit more, that game's, that game could go a different way. He had 14 in Game 2. It's not bad, but it's not great either. We need him. I say you need him like about 17 points a game at least. You need 17 and 10 from Clint Capella. Like, you're only out there to finish lob dunks, to rebound, or offensive rebound, putbacks, and just to be active out there. And he's not doing that yet. Like I said, he played better in Game 2. After only scoring 4 in Game 1, you only can go up from there, but it's still not enough. We need a little bit more from him. And the biggest thing the Rockets need to do is stop playing ISO ball so much. I know a lot of their offense is predicated on James Harden being who he is, and he's one of the best, if not the best, one-on-one scorer in the league. He's one of the best, if not the best, at drawing the foul on driving to the paint. The Warriors are now finding a way to just hone in on James Harden and making it really, really hard for him to make some of these shots he's used to making. On the pick and roll, they're just pretty much ignoring the roll man and throwing 2 bodies at Harden, cutting off that pass completely, making it so that he can't, take a shot or drive off the dribble, and they're just really pressuring the ball handler on the pick and roll. The Warriors have enough defenders to throw at James Harden to make it hard for him to score one-on-one. I just don't see any player movement on the Rockets countless times, not even down the stretch, because I can see people's argument, down the stretch you just want to put it into the ball in your best player's hands and tell them to go. But I'm not even talking about down the stretch and maybe the last 4 or 5 minutes of the game. I'm talking second quarter, third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter, and their offense really seems to be 4 or 5 possessions in a row. It's just everyone staying on the sidelines and James Harden do James Harden, and it's not working. The Warriors are prepared to play defense on that. If that's all that the team is going to do, if everyone's just going to stand around the sidelines, if everyone's going to stand around the arc and put their hands on their knees, that's easy to guard. I saw about 3-4 possessions in a row in the beginning of the fourth quarter of game 2 where Chris Paul went to the same exact corner for about 2 or 3 possessions in the middle of the fourth quarter and just let James Harden go to work with his hands, with his knees. We can't have that from Chris Paul, who's supposed to be Houston Rockets' second best offensive player. He needs to be moving, cutting, setting screens. The Houston Rockets, just to give you some stats and let you understand where I'm coming from. According to NBA.com, the Houston Rockets do ISO ball about 20 possessions a game. That's about 18% of their possessions is isolation plays. They score less than 1 point out of all of these isolation plays, 0.94. So essentially, they run 20 isolation plays a game, and they score 19 points off of those 20 isolation games. They shoot 37% field goal percentage on isolation plays. Teams are learning how to guard their isolation plays because there's no other player movement while the player is going one-on-one. They're literally standing around the arc, doing nothing else, and letting typically James Harden, sometimes Chris Paul, but typically James Harden just go 1-on-5 and try to get a bucket. To put that in perspective, the Golden State Warriors have 10 isolation plays a game. They shoot 43% on those isolation plays, and they score 10 points for the 10 isolation plays they have. The Toronto Raptors, another team that plays good team basketball, only does 7 isolation plays a game, and they have a good isolation player in Kawhi Leonard, and they shoot 47% on their isolation plays. The Portland Trail Blazers, a team with 2 good isolation players in Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, only do isolation plays 11 times a game. 10% of their offense, they shoot 45%. My point is simply that in order for the Houston Rockets to beat the Golden State Warriors, which going into the series I really think was a possibility, and I think it's still a possibility. You know, they say a series doesn't start until somebody wins a game on the road, and the Warriors did what the Warriors were supposed to do. They protected home court, and the Rockets were in both of those games. I just think they need to make a couple of adjustments, and I know they're not going to completely throw away, isolation basketball, because James Harden is, like I said, probably the best ISO scorer in the league right now. But they just got to tone it down a little bit, in my opinion. They need some player movement. They need some cuts, some back doors. I just don't see them getting that enough to get those other players involved. Clint Capella scores off of lobs, backdoor screens. That's his thing. You need player movement to get him involved. Chris Paul, yes, he can score in isolation, but I think he'd be better off running off of screens, faking screens, slipping backdoor. He's got a high IQ. Let him use it. If the Rockets continue to play the way they're playing and continue to just pound the air out of the ball, they're not going to beat the Warriors. They're just not. But if there's a team who could beat the Warriors in the Western Conference, I think it is the Rockets. So they got to figure it out, because I want to see a good series here. We're going to see if they can make these adjustments in game 3, heading back to Houston. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Let me know if you agree with what I think the Rockets need to do, or you think the Rockets need to do something different. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to give it a like. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. I'm out. Peace.